What I remember when the bomb exploded, I remember not really thinking that it was a bomb. The first thought that I had was maybe that it was thunder or something. The sound made me think of thunder. But as quickly as I thought that, the windows came crashing in. And I heard someone inside the church say, "Hit the floor." And when I fell on the floor, I could tell after a few seconds, I could hear feet. I could tell that people were getting up, running out. So my first thought was for those two younger brothers that I had brought with me. I knew that before I could leave or go to safety, I would need to figure out where they were. And so I went outside and searched downstairs and upstairs and was never able to find my brothers there at the church. We would find them later in a different part of the community. September 15th started as a very routine day. It was Sunday morning. I was trying to coax my sister into getting her hair combed. And finally, my mother said, "Just leave her here. I'll bring her later with me." So my two younger brothers, Alan and Wendell, left with me. My oldest brother dropped us off at church. And we arrived right about 9:30. And after putting them in their classes, I went upstairs to the church office to gather my equipment, I guess I could call it, but I was responsible for taking attendance, and I was responsible for recording the financial giving for the day and then creating a summary report that I would give later. So I did this, collected all of these reports, passed them out. Then I sat in my Sunday school class for a while, and generally about 9:15 I would get up, collect those reports, and create the summary. On this particular Sunday, we were very excited. All of the young people were excited because it was Youth Sunday. That just meant that we were in charge of everything. We sang, we gave the devotion, we did the ushering, we did everything. So we were excited about that. As I started up the stairs to complete those reports, I passed the bathroom where my friends were. And I spoke to them, and they were combing hair and talking, and just everybody excited in their own way about different things. But I didn't linger there because of the report, and as I started up the steps, when I reached the top, the phone was ringing in the church office. In those days, the church office was right behind the sanctuary. So when I reached the church office and heard the phone ring, I went in and answered it. Mrs. Shorter, whom I worked under, was not there, and the caller, male caller on the other end, said 3 minutes. And as quickly as he said that, he hung up. So I still had my items in my arm, my materials in my arm, and I just turned and walked out into the sanctuary. And only because we've counted it, I know that I took about 15 steps before the bomb exploded.
What was the last thing that you had said to them before you left them in the bathroom?
"See you later." When I passed the bathroom, last thing I said, "See you later." Birmingham was a very segregated place during that time. It was a very difficult, dark and difficult place during that time. As a young person, probably prior to the age of 14, we did not experience a lot of the difficult days. Our parents did such a great job of sheltering us. Many of our activities were provided for us right here at the church and in the schools, so that we didn't miss the places that we could not go or the places we were not allowed to go. They provided picnics and swimming parties and contests and just all kinds of activities right here at the church. So we didn't really know to what extent we were missing a lot of things. I think that our parents did not want us to know that there were a lot of restrictions out beyond the home parameters. And so for many things, they just didn't tell us about it. They sheltered us. When, for example, they opened the first fast food place, the Jack's Hamburgers, rather than allow us to know that they did not serve black people, rather than have us go to a side window when they did serve them, they just kept us at home, and they always told us that it was about money, that they didn't have the money to do these things. And so in a real way, we did not know many of the barriers that existed out there. it was a real gift in a lot of ways, not knowing that the barriers were there. There were no imaginary barriers in our minds saying, we can't do this because of those people or this person or whatever. We really grew up thinking that we could do anything that we wanted. We could be anyone that we wanted to be. This was stressed a lot in my elementary school and my high school. I guess they felt we would find out soon enough what things were possible and what things weren't. But they really did a tremendous job of preparing us so that if the opportunities came, we would be ready. I think our church was just heartbroken. They were, young, innocent girls. They had not been part of the movement. They had not served in any way with that. And they had their full life ahead of them. They were all very bright, very smart young girls in school. And in two of the cases, they were the only children. Denise and Cynthia were the only children that their parents had. So the church was really shocked that we had people in our city who were willing not only to kill young children in the name of segregation, but to bomb the house of worship to maintain that. And we were away from our church about 8 months during the renovation, but we had many members who did not come back. Some did not come back because they were afraid. They thought it would happen again or something new would happen. Some did not come back just because they thought that the church would continuously be having mass meetings and so forth. I would venture to say we probably had half of the congregation to return after the renovation. So the church reacted very strongly to what happened there. It was a very painful experience. I can tell you that prior to this experience, I was just a young girl growing up in a house with 4 brothers who picked on me a lot, but life was good. I had very loving parents. Both my parents were teachers. We had a lot of fun at home. After the bombing of the church, a lot of things changed. I think that we all probably became a little more quiet. We became a little more fearful. We had heard these bombs going off for years, but all of a sudden it was very real because we had lost 4 of our friends. I struggled with it tremendously because I was trying to understand, as a child of 14, trying to understand what could make this situation right. If this was all about the color of your skin, what could make it right? What, after all, were we supposed to do about that? We understand that we can't change the parents to whom we're born, our gender, our color. So what were we supposed to do differently? That's what I kept trying to figure out. And it became just a very troubling thought or obsession that I carried around, and I didn't understand. And 6 months after they bombed this church, they bombed the house across the street from where I was growing up. So with that second bomb, I became convinced. I can tell you I was afraid most of the time, wherever I was traveling, when I went off to school. I was just convinced that sooner or later I was going to die from one of the bombs that was exploding in Birmingham. So I found myself for many years after that, probably about 20 years, suffering from depression at a time when we didn't call it depression. But it took a long time to sort through the things that had happened here in Birmingham and to understand them and to put them in perspective. What made me decide to write the book was just the resurgence of mean-spiritedness that I began to see. I really felt that America had reached a crossroads many years after the bombing of the church. I really felt that America had looked back and had looked at all of the mistakes we had made in our country, and that they were committed to moving forward in a positive way for all of its citizens. And when I began to realize and to see things that were contradictory to that, I decided that perhaps we had forgotten many of the lessons that we had learned during the 60s. In many cases, we hadn't taught those lessons, but in other cases, we had forgotten. So I decided that I would go back and recapture the memories of a 14-year-old from the bombing of the church.